Here's the secret of making it a great year. Every day, serve someone. Every day. Every day add value to people. Every day serve one. Every day live the intentional life of doing for others, sometimes what they cannot do for themselves. And if you will put people first and add value to them and serve them, it becomes absolutely amazing what you and I are going to have and achieve, how we're going to help people, and in return, how it comes back to us. Benjamin Franklin said this: "No one is useless in this world who lightens the burden of someone else." If you're helping someone else lift a load in your life, you become a very useful person. Mahatma Gandhi said that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. But perhaps on this kind of a theme, my favorite quote is from Albert Schweitzer, who said, "I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know. The only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve." Boy, he's right on. The happiest people are not always the most successful people, but they're the ones who serve the best. I've met a lot of unhappy, successful people, haven't you? But I've never met an unhappy person that gave their life of serving and giving and adding value to other people. Martin Luther King Jr. said, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. Only one time in the Gospels is it recorded that Jesus said, "Follow me and follow my example." Only one time. And that's when he was washing the feet, serving the disciples. And I just want to talk to you today about how you and I can just intentionally begin to do this, okay? In my younger years of forming myself as a young leader, I kind of thought that what leaders did was get everybody to join their team and cast the vision, and so that's what I was doing. And then in about 27, I heard Zig Ziglar say, who became a great friend of mine. Zig said, "If you will help people get what they want, then you'll receive everything that you need in life." And when I heard that, I thought, I've got this turned around. I need to focus on people. I need to put others first. And if I help them, then all the stuff that I'm going to need, I'm going to get as a return. And about the same time, I read a book by Eugene Habacher called The Other Side of Leadership. He became also a wonderful friend of mine. And Eugene said in his book, "The true leader serves people and their best interests. True leaders are motivated by loving concern rather than personal glory." So if Jesus were here, and we would say to him, what's important, what he would say to us is, he would say, valuing people is important. And not only valuing people, but serving people. And he would just say to all of us, if you want to have a great 2019, value people, serve people. So we're going to look at a couple biblical examples here and kind of really get some good understanding under our belt about what does it mean to really intentionally serve people. The first story is where Jesus is going into the upper room, and the disciples are all arguing about who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom. And not only who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom, but who's going to sit the closest to Jesus. And so they're back and forth, and they're talking, and basically, as Jesus listens, he realizes that what they've got is they got what he call horizontal thinking. They're thinking about, am I better than you, and where would I position? And he wanted to get them on vertical thinking, so he started talking to them, and the passage is on Luke 22, it's on your screen. Within minutes, they were bickering over who of them would end up the greatest, but Jesus intervened. Kings like to throw their weight around, and people in authority like to give themselves fancy titles. And then this is the key, here's the key phrase. It's not going to be that way with you. Let the senior among you become like the junior. Let the leader act the part of the servant. Now, who would you rather be? The one who eats the dinner or the one who serves the dinner? You'd rather eat and be served, right? Here he goes. But I've taken my place among you as one who serves. It's amazing, isn't it? Jesus, Son of God, has taken his place among us as one who serves. When you biblically begin to understand serving people, there are three things that you kind of understand and come to grips with. Number one is that a servant puts, first of all, service over status. Philippians chapter 2. Don't push your way to the front. Don't sweet talk your way to the top. Put yourself aside and help others get ahead. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. And here's the key phrase. Forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand. You know what he's basically saying is, if you're going to really serve people, you got to forget yourself. Now, I know a lot of people, they're the exact opposite. They're full of themselves. You know people like that, huh? How many of you are sitting beside somebody just like that? Don't. And when you're full of yourself, when I'm full of myself, it's all I can think about is me. And the moment that it gets there, it's all of a sudden everything's going to be centered about who I am, where I am, what's happening to me. And we all have to fight that because we all are basically selfish. We're born selfish. And the illustration, in fact, I've used it here before. If you don't think you're selfish, just let me ask you a simple question. When somebody takes a group picture of you, and you see that picture for the first time, who is the first person? Huh? Who do you look for? I mean, first person. You go right to yourself, don't you? I mean, my gosh, you pass those other 7 people, you go, oh, there I am. And let me tell you what, if you look good, you go, great picture. Great. You've judged the whole picture on how you looked. You haven't even looked at the right. Oh, great. And if you don't look good, oh, come on, do it again. Take another picture. Everything is based upon, did I look good or didn't I look good? So this is who we are. One of the reasons why living an intentional life is so important is if we are not intentional, we will be selfish. You know, we got to work at this. If 2019 is going to be an incredible year, you're going to have to look at the year and say to yourself, what can I do to add value to people instead of what are people going to do to add value to me? What can I do to serve people instead of, I wonder who in this next year is going to serve me? We're going to have to do a complete mind shift in that whole process. Service over status. But a servant, secondly, puts character over comfort. In other words, they do the right thing whether they feel like doing it or not. You know, there are two kinds of people. There are the people that do what is right and then feel good, and there are some people who want to feel good before they do what is right. And if you want to feel good before you ever do what is right, you and I will not do a lot of things right because we'll let our emotions control it. But the moment that we say, no, I'm going to do the right thing, and then I'll let the emotion follow. Character over comfort. A couple of weeks ago, right after Thanksgiving, I was teaching on the Good Samaritan, the message on perspectives about possessions. And as we know the story of the Good Samaritan, the man was robbed. He was on the side of the road. He was half dead. The Good Samaritan went over and took care of him. You know, took care of his wounds, put him on his donkey, took him to a place to recover and paid for it, and took care. And the whole thing that is huge is that the Good Samaritan was willing to be inconvenienced. Now here's the key. If you and I are going to make 2019 a great year of serving people, let me tell you the first thing that's going to happen to you, the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to be inconvenienced. Because when you have to serve people, they don't do it on your time schedule. Mm-hmm. Now, in the Good Samaritan story, hey, the priest and the Levite, what they do? They saw the guy that was robbed, half dead, and they saw him, and they went to the other side of the road, and they walked by, didn't they? They not only walked by, and they walked by as far as they could get from him. And you know why? Do you know why they didn't stop? They didn't want to be inconvenienced. They were going somewhere. They're going down to Jericho. And now let me tell you what. Because they were good religious people, here's what I'm sure they did. I'm sure they prayed for him. Yeah. I bet. Don't you think so? I think as they went on their own way, not taking care of him at all, they said, "Oh my God, Oh, Lord, help him, heal him, help him. Send somebody to serve him. Oh, Lord, Lord. Isn't it amazing? Christians can make prayer the biggest cop-out. Sometimes we need to kind of shut up and serve. Hey, just shut up and serve. Character over comfort. And if this is going to be a year where you serve, I will promise you, I promise myself, we will be at times inconvenienced. We just will. And Jesus, he said, look, let me explain it this way. If you want to save your life, what do you have to do? You have to lose it. Yeah. And if you want to be lifted up, you have to humble yourself. And if you want to be the greatest, you got to be the servant. If you want to be first, you got to be last. If you want to live, you got to die. And I look at that and I say, well, I want to save my life. I want to be lifted up. I got all these things I want. And he says, well, you got to go to the other side. Another thing that servant leaders do is they put we over me. They think of the big picture. And they think of others, not so much of themselves. Okay, in John chapter 13, this is, okay, we got to camp here for a few moments. It's on the screen. Jesus knew that the Father had put him in complete charge of everything, and he came from God, and he was on his way back to God. So he got up from the supper table, set aside his robe, put on an apron, and then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the feet of the disciples, drying them with his apron. Now, we know this story. This is a story of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. Well, the first thing that pops out to me is it's amazing. In the most difficult hour of Jesus' life, this is a crucial time. Literally, in just a few hours from this situation, he's going to be in Gethsemane. He's going to find out that he has to go to the cross. And he's going to have the Romans come and take him. He's going to go into mockery of a trial. He's going to be beat. I mean, he's coming into his most difficult period that he came on earth. And in his most difficult time, what is he doing? He is serving other people. Well, this is huge. And he takes a basin of water and he washes their feet. Now, interestingly enough, in the Gospels, there's only 2 times that a basin of water is ever mentioned, and it happens to be just connected with these 2 stories right here. Pilate, remember when the people brought Jesus before Pilate and were wanting him to sentence him to crucifixion? And the press kept they kept pressuring him. And finally, remember what he finally said? Okay, look, he said, I think he's innocent. I don't say anything wrong with him. But if you want to do this, then he said, bring a basin of water. And he took his hands in that basin of water, and he washed his hands and excused himself of the responsibility of what he was about to do. Now, catch me. I call this basin theology. Pilate took a basin of water and put himself first. Jesus took a basin of water and washed feet and put others first. That's the difference between how a Christ follower thinks and how a person who lives for self thinks. It's an entirely different world. And think about this. You talk about a great test as a servant leader. He's washing the disciples' feet, and as he's doing it, being God, knowing all things, he's washing the feet of one who will betray him, one who will deny him, who will lie about him and will curse about him. And every one of the people's feet that he will wash in his deepest, darkest hour will forsake him and run. And what's he doing? He's serving. He's washing their feet. Every year in November, we have this event called Exchange for Leaders. We go to a different city. It's an amazing event, and we give them leadership experiences. And so in November, I had them in Los Angeles. And one of the places I wanted to take them, I really wanted to open their eyes and really get them to see a pretty amazing story. So I took them to the Dream Center out in Los Angeles that is led by a a longtime friend of mine, Matthew Barnett. And here's the story. This is a great story. Matthew Barnett decided to go to Los Angeles and care for the poor and give his life in the worst area of Los Angeles. A lot of drugs, a lot of poverty, a lot of crime. And he had no money, and yet he wanted to start his ministry there. So here's what he did. He literally on the sidewalk, on a busy sidewalk in this poor area of Los Angeles, he put a desk and a chair. He didn't have an office. He didn't have a building. And people would come by and they'd say, what are you doing? He said, well, this is my office. And I'm here to care for people and meet needs. Do you have something I can help you with? And people began to come around and gather around and make the long story short. Now, this was several years ago, 20 years ago probably. Now, today, if you're in Los Angeles, the hospital in Los Angeles, you can see on the hill that City of Angels Hospital, now that's the Dream Center. And hundreds of drug addicts are taken care of and met, and he's done this incredible ministry. So I had all these leaders there to stretch their mind and stretch their heart a little bit. And so I had Matthew talk for a moment, and here's what he said. He talked about the fact that they were a bridge between people that were poor and had lost their whole dignity and value, basically. And they were the bridge to help them get back their dignity and value and their health and all these things. And then he said something very interesting about a bridge. He said, if we are to be a bridge for others to cross over into a better life, we will get walked on. I'm just letting you think about that for a moment. We'll get walked on. Okay. There's another passage of scripture I want you to look at because we're learning how to serve so we can do 2019 better. Because I want you to see this passage because when we serve others, here's what's beautiful. We serve Jesus. So you know the passage. Here we go on the screen. I was hungry, you fed me. Jesus is talking, by the way. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was homeless, you gave me a room. I was shivering, you gave me clothes. I was sick, you stopped to visit. I was in prison, and you came to me. Now notice the response of the people there. The sheep, here's what they're going to say. Master, what are you talking about? Now, these are the people he's just talked about. He said, I was sick, you visited me. I was naked, you clothed me. And so he said, you did this to me. And he said, Master, what are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry and feed you? Thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we ever see you sick or in prison and come to you? Then the king will say, I'm telling you a solemn truth. Whenever you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. You did it to me. Jesus values people so much that when we serve them, he takes it personally. Yeah. I run into people all the time, they'll say, John, I just don't feel close to God. I just haven't connected with God for a while. And they'll look at me and say, what do you think I should do? Oh, I said, that's so simple. My gosh, you gave me an easy one. Hey, just go serve people. Just go serve people. Because you see, every time you serve a person, you serve Jesus. You want to get close to him? You can feed him. You can clothe him. Come on. This is amazing. And what's incredible about the story is when Jesus is telling them this, they're looking at him and saying, when did we feed you? When did we clothe you? You see, they were doing some wonderful things, but you see, they saw the hurting people, but they didn't see Jesus. This is huge. So every day when I serve people, if I come up and hug somebody and just give them an encouraging word, I walk away and I say, wow, just hug Jesus. Yeah. So you say, well, I haven't been close to Jesus for a while. Go start hugging some people. I got 42 hugs with Jesus today. See, you're still trying to pray. My name's John. I'm your friend. One of the books that I revised about a year ago was Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. And one of the things I love about my writing anymore is I've written to the business and secular audience so long, and they know me now so well that I can get by with a lot of stuff. It's just beautiful. I can just be salt and light, and it's just, you know, I'm trying to be respectful and value everybody, but I just am slipping in all the time. Just the other day I was doing a Q&A with a secular business company, and then they mentioned, they said, well, now you're a person of faith. And how does that affect your leadership? Oh, I said, it's everything. I said, do you know everything I've learned about leadership is from the Bible? And they're all looking at me. You're kidding. Oh, I said, I'll tell you something that'll surprise you more. They said, what's that? I said, everything you know about leadership is from the Bible too. Yeah. It is. Oh, this is so huge. I said, you know, you're good people. You just don't have a clue. But you're good people. You're good people. You're good people. I said, let me explain it to you. I said, any of you in the audience, give me any leadership principle that you just really love, that you just have bought into, that you practice. Just give me the leadership principle, and I'll tell you exactly where you can find that in the Bible. And they started giving me this. And I said, oh, yes, that reminds me of the story here and there. And then after a while, they just kind of like, oh, they got real quiet. I want to talk to you about the best advice that I ever received. And then I want to pass it on to you if I titled this lesson. I've never done this lesson. I wrote it just for you, to be honest with you. If I entitled the lesson, I would call it the best thing you can do for yourself and for others, okay? When I graduated from college, my father, who happened to be the president of the first college I graduated from, I sat down with him. I was getting ready to begin my life, my calling. And I asked him for advice, and what he told me was the best advice I ever received, and this is going to be the core of the lesson. He said to me, John, if you want to be successful, 3 things you need to do every day. Value people, believe in people, and unconditionally love people. He said, if you'll do those 3 things, you'll always have people follow you. You'll always be a person of influence, because it's all about people, and people, most of them don't feel valued. Few of them ever have anyone that really believes in them. And he said, hardly anyone has anyone that unconditionally loves them. And I have taken that advice. Value people, believe in people, unconditionally love people. And in every book I write, I take it through that grid. Every teaching I take, like today, I take it through that grid. I continually remember that in everything I do and everything that I am, I value people, believe in people, and unconditionally love them. Now, my father just died July 4th of this year. He was 98 years of age. The day before he died, I was with him, just the 2 of us alone. And we spent a few hours together, and I began to talk to him about lessons that he had taught me. In fact, that day on my iPhone, I literally would put down a lesson he would teach me, and then I'd say, now, Dad, this is what you taught me, and this is how I've applied it to my life. And there were 29 lessons. The other day, I was reviewing those 29 lessons that my dad taught me, and I think it's, let me count them on my pad, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 of those 29 lessons were about relationships, about either valuing people, believing in people, and unconditionally loving people. And I'm going to give them to you just quickly. This is not the meat of the lesson. One of the lessons that my father taught me were things such as encourage others, walk slowly through the crowd, see the best in others, remember their names, travel the high road, express gratitude to and for others, unconditionally love them. And when I looked at these lessons that he taught me in life, what was huge was this, that he understood the value of people, and he understood how to give value to people. Now, there's a relationship, I think, between understanding the value of people and also at the same time understanding how to add value to people. I have a coaching company.
It's only 10 years old, but it's now the largest coaching company in the world. I think we have like 35,000 members in about 168 countries of the world. So that's pretty fast growing for 10 years. And when we bring these coaches together every 6 months, we have these major 3-day conferences where we especially bring in new coaches, people that just signed up to be part of our team, the John Maxwell team. And we bring them together, and every time we do, every 6 months, I have this about an hour and a half lecture called JMT. That stands for John Maxwell Team DNA. And I take them through what is the DNA of a John Maxwell team member, because I want them to understand this is who we are. We are creating a culture of people that really add value to people. And the first thing I teach them is this, and I want you to catch it, that we are people of value who value people, and we add value to them. I'm a person of value, but I'm on this teaching call with you today because I value you. I value who you are, what you've done. I value Stephen. I value Erica, all the people that lead your organization. I'm a person of value that values you. So what is the best result? The best result of all of this is that I add value too. If I value myself and I value you, there's an automatic action that I take, and that is that I value you. And the best thing that you can do for yourself and the best thing that you can do for your others is to value yourself, value people, and then add value to them. You see, I wrote another book called Winning with People. And in it, I have what I call people principles. And one of the people principles is what I call the elevator principle, which basically says we either, like an elevator, we either lift people up or we bring people down. And in fact, I could basically summarize any kind of relationship teaching in almost one sentence, and it would be something like this. You and I are either a plus in people's lives or we are a minus in people's lives. We're either adding value to them, or to be honest with you, we're taking a little piece from them. That's just the way it is. And again, this is huge, because when I think about the best thing I could do for myself and the best thing I can do for you is I can value myself and I can value you, because if I can do those two things, if I am a person of value and you're a person of value, then my next response is that I'm going to add value to you. So how do I do that? How does that happen? So let me give you just my little 5-step everyday process of adding value to people. Here we go. Number one, I value people, okay? I go back to the golden rule. Treat others as I want to be treated. So every day I make sure that the core of everything I do is based on the fact that I value people. And the reason that's so important, especially for leaders, is leaders see more than others see, and leaders see before others see. And because of that, because I see more than most people and because I see before other people, this gives me a very distinct advantage over other people. Trust me, in life, if you can see more and you can see before, you're going to win the race. So the question is, what do I do with that advantage? What do I do with the advantage I can see more and I can see before? I can either use it for personal gain or I can use it for your gain. I can either manipulate you, which means I move you for my advantage, or I can motivate you, which means I move you for your advantage and personal and mutual advantage. So I'm either going to be a plus or a minus, and I'm going to be a plus or minus with people based on the fact that I value those people. If I value you, I'm going to be a plus. If I don't value you, to be honest with you, or if I don't even value myself, I'll be a minus. I'm either adding or I'm subtracting. So every day I value people. The second thing I do every day is I think of ways to add value to people. In other words, I look at my calendar in the morning. On my calendar day in the studio, I knew I would be talking to a lifestyle publication. So what am I doing? Before I ever get here in our teaching lesson, I'm thinking of ways I can add value to you. I'm thinking ahead. I'm intentionally saying, I'm going to be with you today. What can I say to you that is going to be a plus in your life so that when I'm done, you say, wow, John just moved us a little bit further down the road. This is huge. So, when I look at my calendar, I ask myself, who will I see? Oh, I'm going to see Lifestyle Publication today. And what can I do? What can I do to add value to you? In fact, one of the things I felt that I could add value to you today was to do a kind of a unique lesson just for you, because I know how much you value people in your publication and the whole intent of why you do what you do. A few years ago, I wrote a book, Intentional Living. And we have 5 grandchildren, and I was working on teaching my grandchildren how to be intentional in adding value to people. So I was having dinner with all 5 of my grandchildren, and I was asking them what they were going to do the next day at school to add value to people. And our youngest grandson, at that time, I think James was 9, said, Papa, tomorrow when I go to school, I'm going to open doors for people. If I'm near a door and people are coming out, I'm going to rush ahead. I'm going to open the door. And when they pass through, I'm going to smile and I'm going to say, have a good day. I said, oh, James, I like that. The next evening, he called me and said, Papa, I had a great day. I said, well, tell me about it. He said, well, remember I was going to open doors and, tell people to have a great day. And I said, oh, yeah, I remember it well. He said, well, I did that. I did that all day. He said, I opened up 47 doors for people today and smiled and said, have a great day. Now, James is 9, and he's already learning to think ahead of how he's going to add value to people. I want to encourage all of you to look at your calendar, what you're doing tomorrow, see who you're going to see, and ask yourself a very simple question. When I'm with them, what can I do that would add value to them? Wow. Number 3, I not only value people and think of ways to add value to people, but number 3, I look for ways to add value to them. In other words, when I'm with you, I'm constantly looking and saying, what can I do right now to add value to this individual? Wow. Because here's what I know. Who I am determines what I see. Just like who you are determines what you see. If I'm a person of value who values people and wants to add value to people, guess what? I'm going to see all kind of opportunities to add value to you. Why? Because that's who I am. I don't see what's before my eyes. There's a whole bunch of things before my eyes I don't see. I see what I'm prepared to see. And how I view others is how I view myself. Now, this is huge. So how do I do this? How do I look for ways to add value to people? Well, I love to play golf when I'm on a golf course. One of my desires is to find somebody that's working the ground. Maybe somebody's raking the traps, the maintenance people. And I intentionally separate myself from the other golfers for a moment. I go over and introduce myself, and I thank them for their hard work and how beautiful they make the course. And then I give them a financial, I just slip them some money and say, hey, take your family out to eat today. And my name's John, I'm your friend. And I move on. If I'm in a restaurant, especially if it's a single mother or if it's an elderly person, I make sure that I really, give them a great tip. In fact, during COVID-19, I just tip 50% of the meal anymore right now because I know everybody's having a very tough time. Now what I'm just saying is you want to be conscious and look for ways that you can begin to add value to the people around you. These are people I don't even know. In fact, every day I make it intentional that I give something to somebody that doesn't know me at all. I can't benefit at all from them. Okay, the first question I ask anybody that I do know is, how can I help you? What can I do? So every day I value people. Every day I think of ways to add value to people. Every day I look for ways when I'm with them to add value to people. And number 4, every day I do things that add value to them. I not only think and look, but I actually do things. In fact, I ask myself every night, who did I add value to? And how did I add value to them? And I always have a goal, and this is a simple goal, but it's really good. I want to be the first to add value to people. You know, when you're first, you set yourself apart from everyone else. I watch people in the crowd often hesitate, and I often think, you know, if you wait till everybody else does something good before you do something good, it's still good, but you get lost in the crowd. Be the first to help. Be the first to add value. I try, and so I become a person of action. So when I see that there's action needed, while other people are asking themselves, well, should I do this? I've already made up my mind because I prepared my mind. My mind has already been made up. You know, my mentor, John Wooden, used to say, John, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. So I've already made my mind. So every day I value people, think of ways to add value to people, look for ways to add value to people, do things that add value to people. And finally, number 5, every day I encourage others to add value to people. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now. For all of you of Lifestyle Publications, I'm encouraging you to now begin to follow this process, because it's the best thing you can do for yourself, but it's also the best thing that you can do for others. I encourage you to be a person of significance, not just a person of success. Now, success is wonderful, it's important, but success is pretty much about me. It's very personal. It's, you know, it's how well I do in life, and you know, how well I provide for my family and my home, and it's all about me. Significance is all about others, and I want to encourage you to become a person of significance. As you're in this incredible world of publication, I want to encourage you to, you know, constantly, intentionally add value to other people. I've known a lot of successful people that were not happy, but I've never met a person that does significance, that literally pours their life into others, that they're all fulfilled. They're all having a sense of inner deep satisfaction because they know it's not about them. In fact, Stephen talked about our training of leaders around the world, and we have a fairly large international presence. And in one of my companies, one of my nonprofit organizations, we do transformation through values training in other countries. We're only going to the country when we're invited by the president. We're in 3 countries now. We're getting ready to go into 2 more countries. We have 22 presidents that have already requested us to come in to be with them. And so I take my coaches on these trips. These coaches, they pay their way because they want to add value to people. They want to do what this teaching's all about, because they know it's the best thing to do for themselves, the best thing to do for others. And so we go to train these facilitators of these transformation tables. We'll go in 5 days, train 25,000 facilitators. And I tell my coaches, I say, okay, now you've come to add value to people. You're living this life of significance. It's a beautiful thing. I said, but let me tell you this, by the end of the 5 days, you'll know that they added more value to you than you added value to them. Why you gave yourself, why you lost yourself in them, you found yourself.
I would like to talk to you today about what every child needs. Because you see, we're all children. We may be grown children, we may be parents of children, we may be grandparents of children, but we started into this world as children. And perhaps the greatest need, perhaps the greatest felt need in the world today is how can we add value to children? What can we do to help them to have a better life? I would say that would probably be, if you just kind of did a worldwide poll, that would probably be at the top of people's agenda, to make sure that we provide the very best for our children, for our grandchildren. If you're a child, what do you need? What do you need right now that'll help you become the person that you really want to be? That's what I want to talk about. And the example is how God the Father connected with his son, Jesus. This is simply beautiful. I have a wonderful friend, Chris Hodges, and he and I, a few months back, were having a dinner together, and he and I got onto this conversation. In fact, he was the one that began to really turn me on and give me the insight of how the Father really connected with the Son. And we're going to just dive into this lesson because it's just going to really help us all. So, you know, I know you're ready to take notes, and I'm ready to dive. So look at the person you're sitting beside and say to them, you're about to learn something, okay? Just look right back at him and say, why do you think I brought you? Huh? Here we go. There were 2 times that God spoke to other people about his son. One was baptism, and one was at the Mount of Transfiguration. And we're going to look at those two times because that's where God physically, visibly, gave a response to how he felt about his son in front of other people. So let's go with baptism. First of all, coming out of the message again, the moment that Jesus came out of the baptismal waters, the skies opened and he saw God's Spirit. He looked like a dove descending and landing on him, and along with the Spirit, a voice. This is my son, chosen and marked by my love, delight of my life. Now we're going right over to the Mount of Transfiguration. This is where Peter, James, and John, they saw Jesus, Elijah, and Moses. Here's the passage. Just then a light, radiant cloud enveloped them. And from deep in the cloud a voice, this is my son, marked by my love. Listen to him. In these two settings, Jesus heard from his Father what every child needs to hear from their parent. And I'm going to look at these three, and by the way, they're the same in both situations. At baptism, the first thing that Jesus heard and felt from the Father is, I belong. This is my son. Secondly, I am loved, chosen, marked by my love. And thirdly, I am special, delight of my life. That's what Jesus heard from his Father. As he was coming out of the baptismal waters, he's hearing his Father say, son, you belong. You're loved. You're special. At Mount of Transfiguration, where God interacts with others around, talking about his son. Again, I belong. This is my son. I am loved, marked by my love. I am special. Listen to him. Now, what is the result of a child hearing that from his father or mother? Confidence. And Jesus exhibits incredible confidence because he knew who he was. In fact, there's a passage of scripture, and we're going to look at it right now at the Passover in John chapter 1. Just before the Passover feast, Jesus knew that his time had come to leave this world to go to the Father. And having loved his dear companions, he continued to love them right to the end. It was supper time. The devil by now had Judas, son of Simon the Iscariot, firmly in his grip, all set for the betrayal. Notice this next passage of scripture. Jesus knew that the Father had put him in complete charge of everything. He knew that he came from God. He knew that he was on his way back to God. So he got up. He got up from the supper table, set aside his robe, and he put on an apron. And then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them off with his apron. You see, Jesus could do this because he had heard the Father in very specific, tangible ways talk about his son. And he knew that others even heard what the Father had said. He had confidence to face difficulty because you know that right after this time, he's going to go to the Garden of Gethsemane, and then we're going to go into the time of his trials and the cross. So he had confidence to face difficulty because he knew who he was. But he also had confidence to serve. Isn't it interesting? In his trying hour, what's he doing? He's washing the disciples' feet. And what I want you to know is that there's a confidence that is given a child when the parent pours into that child and gives that child these three things that is literally life-changing. I have a wonderful friend, Diana Kay, and she has a statement that I love. She said, people grow into the conversations that you have around them. And Jesus grew into the conversations that were around him when the Father was talking to the people about This is my son, that I want you to know that he belongs. He belongs to me. It's my son. And that this son is loved by me, and he's special. Listen to him. He's got something important to say. From 1 John 3:1, and it's a beautiful passage. It says, "What marvelous love the Father has extended to us." Just look at it. We are called children of God. An omnipotent God loves us so much, he wants to call us his children. You know the story of the prodigal. Ran away, spent his money, messed his life up, got so bad, finally said, I'm going to go home, but I'm not going to go home as a son. I'm going to go home as a servant. And what happens is when we mess our lives up, we begin in our own eyes to reduce ourselves and distance ourselves from our Heavenly Father. And he said, I'll come as a servant. I'll ask for a bunk out in the barnyard, and I'll go around and do the chores. You see, he already lowered himself. He said, I'm not worthy to be called a son. But you know the story. As he comes close to the house, the father's looking for him, runs out, hugs him, kills the calf, puts the ring on him, puts the robe on him, grabs hold of him. My son is gone, is now home. Now here's what I want you to hear. I don't know where you have been, and I do not know what you have done, and I don't know how much you maybe have disappointed yourself, others, or God in your eyes, but I want you to know this. You may think that at best you could have a servant relationship with the Heavenly Father, but he has never considered that. He has never thought of you as a servant, a second-class citizen. You say, but you don't know who I am. You don't know what I've done. You don't know what I do. You don't know what I think. You don't know me. I don't know you. I don't have to know you. I know the Father. I know God the Father. And God the Father loves you unconditionally right now, no strings attached. End of story. That's how much God loves you. And I just want you to know that he's always waiting and ready like the Father. You may not be ready, you may not be looking, you may not be waiting, but I'm here to tell you the God that I am talking about, the God that I know, the God that has changed my life and can change your life. The God that I'm talking about, he is standing at the end of the road with his arms out, and he is waiting for you to come to him no matter who you are, no matter what you have done. He is waiting for you to come to him. He wants more than anything else for you to know that you belong to God's family. But he also wants you to know that you're loved. Look at the passage in Ephesians 3. And I ask him, Paul is praying here, that both feet planted firmly in love, that you'll be able to take in with all the followers of Jesus the extravagant, and they are extravagant dimensions of God's love. Reach out and experience its breadth, test its length, plumb its depths, rise to its height, live full lives, full in the fullness of God. He said, I want you to know and experience the extravagant love of God. He said, the breadth. What's the breadth of God's love? That means it's everyone. God loves everyone. You say, what do you mean God loves everyone? God loves everyone. Everyone? Everyone. And as God's children, we need to love everyone too. Everyone. Everyone. The length of his love is it goes on forever. It never ends. It never ends. There's no end to his love. The depth of his love is it reaches as low as you have been and then a little bit lower to pick you up. And the height of his love is all about your potential. Once you become his child and you have that sense of belonging, now that potential, that height of his love is just going to take you and lift you to a whole new level. And then thirdly, God wants you to know how special you are. One more passage, Ephesians chapter 3. How blessed is God And what a blessing he is. He's the Father and our Master, Jesus Christ. And he takes us to the high places of blessing in him. Look at these next two words. Long before he laid down earth's foundations, he had us in mind. He had settled on us as the focus of his love, to be made whole and holy by his love. Long, long ago, he decided to adopt us into his family through Jesus Christ. What a pleasure he took in planning this. I was talking this week to a friend of mine that's an atheist. He's one of my beautiful people that is one of my projects. Sometime I'm going to just do a whole evening on people that I dearly love that are hard cases in the kingdom. And he's an atheist. So we were talking, and he was getting vulnerable, and I was sharing, and I've developed years of trust with him now. And so he was being fairly open with him, and he got to the place where I could sense that I could say this to him, and I called him by name. And I said, this is not his name. I said, Joe, I know you don't believe in God, but I can tell you really miss him. Everybody created by God misses him. And I know it. And that's why I'm so passionate to share my faith. Because all they're waiting for somebody is to come and help them connect with that miss in their life. I prayed with him on the phone, and when it was all over, he said, John, he said, thank you. He said, while you prayed, I did what I've seen you do before. I lifted my hands. And I prayed too. It's a beautiful thing when an atheist, I love this. I just love this. This is my world, folks. It's wonderful when an atheist lifts his hand. You see? Yeah. My friend, I don't know if you believe in God or not, but I do know this. You sure miss him. You miss him because you have a longing to belong, a desire to feel unconditional love, and to believe that you're special. Let's talk about how you think, how I think. Because what I want you to know is in your life, there is more and more for you than what you have right now. And in your life, there is more before you than you ever had in your life. I want you, in other words, to think abundance, not scarcity. See, a lot of people, they don't think more and more, they think less, less. And as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So I just want you to know that before you, in front of you, and you may say, well, you know, I'm in kind of a juncture in my life, and I'm not even really quite sure where I'm going next, and it's a little transition period. It's okay. Let me just say something to you. Here's what I know. Here's what I know about life. Here's what I know about you. There's more and more for you, and there's more before you. And I want you to know that because I know that for sure. And I want you to think of two words right now, and these two words will just help clear all of this up for you. The first word is creativity, and the second word is flexibility. Because the moment that you really not only understand, but you begin to embrace and live out these two words, you begin to enter into the more and more before world that I want for you. Creativity. What creativity really says is this, that there is always an answer. You show me a creative person, and I'm going to tell you, at the core of their creativity is not some kind of genius or some kind of a way that they can think out of the box. We put a lot of talent to creativity, and it is a high talent. But what I want you to understand about creative people is, at the core of a creative person is this: they believe there is always an answer. That's what keeps them creative. Think about it. If you don't think there's an answer, how creative are you going to be? How long are you going to hang with that idea? How long are you going to try to work it and percolate it and create it and make it something bigger? So creative people, they believe there is always an answer. So they already think, if I really work hard and use my mind and I get creative, there's something out there that I haven't discovered. There's always an answer. Now look at the word flexibility. The word flexibility says there is more than one answer. I love this. There's more than one answer. And so when I start this life, I've got to understand that, wow, there's not only an answer, but when I get the answer, that's not the only answer. I was asked the other day, John, you seem to be constantly striving to improve yourself. How do you handle best? And I say, well, every day I try to do my best. And at the end of the day, if I did my best, I said, boy, I did my best. And I'm glad. I like best. But tomorrow that's the best is the foundation I build off of. Best can get better. You see, best becomes a problem when you think it's best. Then you want to mount it and have a trophy, have a celebration, and take pictures, have a chicken tour. You see, what you got to understand about best is best if you're giving your best right now. So we like best, but you got to understand beyond best is something better than best. And so you don't rest on the best. You don't rest on the best because you understand you can improve it. You can always get a little bit better. You can always excel a little bit more. You can always push it a little further. You can always climb a little bit higher. Best is wonderful. And so when I run into people and they say, oh, this is as good as it's ever going to get, I want to walk in their life and say, my name's John. And if it's as good as it's ever going to get, I feel very sorry for you. Should we bury you now? You hit your highlight, you might as well go to heaven. Everything else is going to be less. No, you understand that best can get better and more can get more. And I want you just to understand, creativity says there's always an answer. Flexibility says there's more than one answer. So therefore, when I think I have found it, when I think I have succeeded, when I think that I have really grabbed this, what I want you to know is I'm not there yet. There is no finish line.
Is there something that you could impart to all of us about, you're on the top of your game?
Yeah,
how do you do that to sustain that level of, what's the mechanism that drives you to stay at this level or even keep getting better?
I love the questions you ask. I mean, you go right to my heart every time. First of all, I am getting better. I am at the top of my game. Now, I turned 74 on Saturday, February 20th. So I turned 74. So, okay, now get this. And I'm in my best days. But my best days today are because when I was in my 20s, I had a mentor share with me that growth was not automatic, that if I was going to personally grow, I was going to have to dig for it and be intentional in it. And that getting older is automatic, getting better is not. And so once I understood the difference, I said, okay, I've got to get a game plan for my personal growth. And I did. And my game plan for personal growth over the years has been quite simple. It deals around REAL, relationships, equipping, attitude, and leadership. And if you'll read my books, almost all my books are either in relationship, equipping, attitude, or leadership category. And I did that because I came to the conclusion at 27 that if I could teach people how to do those four things really well, they could pretty much be successful in any kind of venture that they have. Because, I mean, if you're good with people relationally, if you know how to equip people and build yourself a team, if you got an attitude that can handle COVID-19 and adversity, and if you can lead and influence people, pretty much you're in the game of success. So I said every day I'm going to learn how to relate better, equip better, attitude better, lead better. I'm going to live in this world. And I didn't become goal oriented. I became more values oriented. And I think this is a difference. Now I'm not opposed to goal oriented at all.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. If you're growth oriented, you'll hit all your goals.
That's right.
But if you're goal oriented and not growth oriented, every time you hit a goal, you know what you do? You go to the game. What's next? Okay, now what do I do? I just made this much money. Oh my gosh! I got this position, and okay, I bought that house. Now what do I do? And to take the what do I do out of your life, just begin to grow. Now, stay right with me. What happens because I grow and have done this for we're about 50 years now on it. I have increased my growth capacity. This is where people miss. My growth capacity is humongous. It's like going to the gym. Hey, you increase physical capacity. It's like reading. You increase mental capacity. Well, I've increased growth capacity. My growth capacity is much larger than most people's. Not because I'm smarter than most people. It's because I've been doing it for 50 years. I've got a long runway now. So my growth capacity allows me to grow more, faster, and compound it more than other people because consistency compounds.
Yeah.
So at this stage of the game, everything I touch gets bigger and better, but it's because my capacity is growing. Now, put on top of that, I don't think there's a finish line. So I'm not running a finite game. Now, Simon Sinek wrote a great book called The Infinite Game. It's a phenomenal book. He's a good friend, and it's a great game. And basically, Simon, I'm going to write a book, and I was already going to write it before Simon's, and now I told Simon I'm going to write it and just make it better than his. But I'm going to write a book. I'm kidding. He's a phenomenal writer. I'm going to write a book entitled "Is There a Finish Line?"
Oh, so good.
And Ed, for most people, the answer is yes. Most people have what I call a self-imposed finish line. When I get to this age, I'm going to quit. When I make this much money, I'm going to quit. And so they put their lines out there. Now, if I put a finish line out there, I'm 74. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to work anymore. Okay, whatever. What people don't understand is when you cross that self-imposed finish line, guess what? You're finished.
You're finished.
It's over. But if you live with no finish line, it's never over. What does that do? That keeps me in the game.
Wow.
It keeps me excited about what's happening because I'm never going to finish. Wow. I'm going to die, but I'm never going to finish. By the way, when I came into the game was already started. I didn't start the game. And it's not. It's certainly going to not end when I leave. I tell people when they think that they're indispensable, I say die and just find out how good we get along without you. Oh my gosh, nobody's indispensable. So it's okay. But what this allows me to do is it allows me to stay fresh. It allows me to ask questions. It allows me to stay curious because I understand my growth capacity is great, and I'm playing in a game that never is finished.
I got to tell you, John, in my career doing this, that's one of my favorite answers of all time, of anything I've ever asked somebody. And for all of you leaders out there, wow, not having a finish line. I put a couple in my life on myself, self-imposed finish lines. And as I got closer to them, they just evaporated and I just quit doing it. Now I've sort of decided to be the way that you are. But the other thing that gives you hope is that as you work on growing yourself, you increase your capacity to grow even more. I've never heard that said before. I've never heard that said before. But I got to that's more fire because I have experienced that. With trying to keep my humility, but I've experienced that in my own life. Like my capacity to grow exponentially is much greater now than it was even 10 years ago because I've been growing. And I never really thought. I think we think the reverse. Well, I've grown so much, there's just not that much more to go. But it's the reverse. That's brilliant.
It's totally the reverse. The more you grow, the more you have to grow. The more it's like the more you know. The more you know, you know what? The more you know you don't know.
That's so true.
The only people that think they know something are people who know nothing.
That's so true.
And the only people that think that they've all stopped growing are people that never grew.
It's so true. Is there something? Let me ask you a very hard question. Go ahead. Can I ask you a hard question?
Well, I may not be able to answer it, but you can ask it.
What did you all through all this growth? Is there something that you used to believe about leadership to be true that you no longer do? That you've evolved out of that belief system?
Oh,
Is there? You're making your face like there's a lot.
we could do an hour. Let me tell you something. If you really are growing, Gandhi talked about a false position, and his false position basically was that you try to hold on. If you're growing, growth means change, which means you can't hold on to things that you one time thought were true or you believed, because you're evolving and you're getting better. Let's put it this way. When I was 25, I had a lot of certainties. At 74, I have very few.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
Because life has taught me that it's not always black and white. It's not either or. It's not. It's many times a combination. But now here's what's beautiful. I have less. If I had 1,000 certainties at 24, at 74, I have 10. Okay. But can I tell you something about those 10? I'm more certain about those 10 than I ever have been before. They've been tested. And can I tell you something? A certainty that hasn't been tested can't be trusted. Oh, and so this whole process of growth means I am not the same. So people that knew me 20 years ago, it's like the guy who came up to me. I was speaking at a conference and he said, "Oh my gosh, this was amazing." He said, I could have heard you 20 years ago. And I smiled and I said, "No, you don't." He said, "Oh, no." He said, I wish I could have heard you 20 years. I said, "No, you don't." And he said, "Well, if I would have heard 20 years ago what I heard today," he said, "it would have changed my life." I said, "If you had heard me 20 years ago, you wouldn't have heard what you heard today."
That's awesome. That's so good.
I'm growing.
Yeah.
I'm growing. I'm evolving. I didn't come out of my mother's womb with the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership.
Right.
It's a process. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. And I think everyone listening to this should be gaining hope from this. That if you start on this journey of establishing your values and getting people sitting at the table with you and being a possibilist and committing to being a grower and getting to that place where people believe you can help them and that they can trust you. And these things are priceless. And for me to hear about the finish line today is something that I needed to evaluate. There's just so many things. Go ahead.
Could I tell you a quick story?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. It's about the finish line, because you said something about you had a couple finish lines that were kind of self-imposed and they got there and they faded. Let me tell you, because I could tell you, see, what I really love was when I have time is to talk about all the mistakes, failures, and stupid things that I've done. Because I've often said, if you want to hear my success, we can do that in a day. If you want to hear about my stupidity, this is going to be a week series. and so I'm going to tell you, let me tell you a real. I had read this story about this guy that was a radio ham operator, and he said something about he'd taken the last marble out of his basket. And the basic story was that he put like 5 years of marbles for every week. And every week he'd go and he'd take a marble out, and he was in a countdown. And this morning I took my last marble out of my basket. And I thought, oh my gosh, I think because I was wanting to turn the companies over to Mark Cole and I was wanting to pass on a lot of stuff, I said, I'm going to get me a jar so that you could see these marbles. And I put in like 3.5 years of marbles. And I told Mark, I told the whole company, in 3.5 years, I'm gone. So just understand this. It's over. Okay. And so every week I'd say, Mark, you take a marble out of that, here comes the marbles start going smaller and smaller. How stupid can you be? and so it was true. Can I tell you something? I'll tell you how stupid I was. I was losing my marbles. Okay. That's how stupid I was.
Come on. That's so good.
So I literally get in front of a lot of the people who knew me well, and I had this big jar of marbles up here, and they'd heard the marble story. And I said, I just want you to know I was so stupid. I was so wrong. I mean, who wants to live their life like Cape Canaveral in a count town? You know what I'm saying? I mean, who wants to do it? And I picked up that, I'll never forget, I took that jar of marbles, and I just threw them on the floor.
He did.
And they just bounced everywhere. And I told him, I said, I'm never going to do this to me again. I'm not in a countdown. I'm only in a make your life count mode. And people today that are on my team, they say, I'll never forget the day you lost your marbles. And
that's wonderful.
but there's no finish line. There's no. I'm going to live till I die and not get the two confused.
Oh gosh, I love you. I wish there was no finish line for this conversation. I don't want there to be. There isn't for you and I, but there will be for the audience. And I I just love you. And I just think you're incredible. You make me think, you make me laugh, you make me passionate. You increase my faith. I want to be more like you.